It was a red-clothed female ghost who wrote a confession. If you, incredibly lucky, receive it in the middle of the night, then you only have two choices. The first is to agree and warm the bedsheets with him for a night. But afterwards, you'll be sucked dry and die. The second is to immediately come to the grave where she was buried and burn her a fierce paper cutout husband. But because the female ghost wore red clothes and died from cold, her resentment was monstrous and long-lasting. This method often couldn't please her either. However, on the 7th day after I received the love letter, I actually refined myself into a purple-robe zombie. Because the fiercest in poetry are zombies, and the most powerful among Taoists are those in purple robes. So I, wearing a purple robe, will also become a zombie. Then we'll see who's fiercer. 7 days ago, a red-clothed smiling flower suddenly appeared on campus and casually handed me a love letter. But because I received too many, I casually threw it away and didn't pay attention. However, after I returned home, that love letter, which had clearly been thrown away, surprisingly reappeared on my bed. So I immediately burned it with fire and even used water to flush it down the toilet. But I never thought that no matter what method I tried, the love letter would reappear before me. At this point, I finally had no choice but to believe that ghosts really exist in this parallel world. The reason why the campus belle became a red-clothed female ghost was because 2.5 years ago, Lu Ruyan was unfortunately assaulted by the school's gatekeeper. To get revenge, she chose to jump off a building in a red wedding dress. And when Lu Ruyan successfully devoured the gatekeeper, her mind was completely consumed by resentment, and she ultimately became a Western-style, stylish, malevolent spirit. I looked at the blood-stained love letter with a solemn expression. Tonight at midnight will be the last moment of the 7th day. By then, the fate of encountering a malevolent ghost is imaginable. But my fate is mine, not heaven's. Even if I die, I will die by my own hand. Not long after, I hailed a taxi by the roadside. Driver, I'll give you an extra 200 yuan. Take me to the mass grave in the city outskirts. Hearing this, the Didi driver was stunned. Going to a mass grave in the middle of the night? Is that a place a respectable person should go? Young man, it's not that uncle won't agree. Add 500. All right. Get in quickly. Uncle will show you now what car level is. After being offered more money, the driver finally stopped dawdling. He stomped on the accelerator and quickly headed towards the mass grave. At this moment, a blood moon hung high in the sky. When the eerie red light shone on the already gloomy mass grave, it immediately became even more terrifying. Ordinary people, let alone going there at night, even in broad daylight, few dared to come to this place. But for the sake of my life, I couldn't care less and directly dragged a large wooden box to Lu Ruyan's grave. The wooden box contained 10 paper figures, each a muscular strong man. After neatly arranging the paper figures, I took out the love letter again and said, "Senior sister, I know I'm handsome, and you're alluring, but we've only just met, and you want to haunt me? It's really not appropriate. How about this? I'll reward you with 10 strong men now. You can go over there and practice your techniques. Let's both take a step back and part ways amicably." Then I placed the love letter in the center of the 10 strong men, took out a lighter, and lit it, along with the curling smoke rising before the grave. The written love letter also turned into ashes. However, just as my face cleared, thinking I had succeeded, little did I know, a red light suddenly shot out from the ashes. The next second, it directly stuck to my forehead. At this moment, the handwriting on the love letter became even redder, as if mocking everything I had done. Seeing this, I was completely enraged. "You ungrateful thing. If that's how it is, then neither of us will have it good." So, without another word, I picked up a large iron shovel and dug out a coffin that I had prepared earlier. The coffin was made from 1,000-year-old bogwood, which could quickly gather the malevolent yin energy of this place. Then I put on a purple Taoist robe. A 5-clawed golden dragon was emblazoned on the robe. The golden dragon was particularly striking under the red moonlight. It turned out that during these 7 days, I hadn't just waited for death, but had been constantly searching for all sorts of methods online. The purple Taoist robe I wore was not fake either. I had gone to Longhu Mountain overnight and donated most of my savings to the nearby villagers for road construction. Only then did I manage to obtain it from the only old Taoist priest in the mountains. Next, I took out 3 bottles of crow's blood and a very ancient and plain copper coin mask. Because to successfully become a purple robe zombie, one must be buried in the mass grave with the heaviest yin energy, using 1,000-year-old bogwood, and use the most yin-rich crow's blood to gather yin energy. Finally, one must wear the copper coin mask to seal off the last wisp of yang energy in the body. Only then can one successfully transform into a purple robe zombie. After everything was ready, I directly twisted open a small can of gas, then lay inside the coffin, closed the lid, and quietly awaited death. As time passed, minute by minute, my consciousness gradually blurred. However, at the very last moment, a mechanical voice unexpectedly echoed in my mind. Detecting host facing supernatural danger. System activation failed. Detecting host is already dead. Upgrading to the template most suitable for the host. Death escaping General King. System binding successful. Congratulations, host, for obtaining 100 years of cultivation. Congratulations, host, for obtaining the Lion Prince Taoist robe. Congratulations, host, for obtaining the Lion King 5 Emperors coin curtain. As the system's last prompt fell, a surge of violent energy rapidly poured into my body. My body also underwent astonishing changes. My teeth, fingernails, and hair were continuously growing, and even the purple Taoist robe I was wearing and the copper coin mask on my face were emitting a terrifying eerie glow. A dozen seconds later, midnight finally arrived. Immediately, an eerie wind rose all around, and white mist emerged. Then, a woman wearing a large red wedding gown walked out from it. She stared intently at where I was buried, and a cold, sinister smile simultaneously appeared on her face. Junior brother, do you think that dying can get rid of me? You are truly too naive. A freshly dead corpse can still share a bed. However, just as her words fell, in the coffin, suddenly opened my eyes, and my body simultaneously released a burst of intense yin energy. The originally clear sky also became turbulent with dark clouds, and streaks of lightning were frantically gathering within them, seemingly ready to strike down at any moment. Lu Ruyan, wearing the wedding dress, her sinister smile suddenly vanished from her face. She looked at the changes in the sky with a face full of terror. At the same time, in a research institute, an alarm suddenly blared. The professors, seeing this, their figures immediately couldn't help but tremble. They saw a high-tech instrument sitting in the center of the laboratory. The yin energy value recorded by it was continuously rising. After only a few seconds, the large screen suddenly emitted black smoke and completely crashed. Seeing this scene, everyone's pupils contracted violently, as if they had seen something terrifying. Among them, a square-faced man appeared. At this moment, his face was also full of shock. Where did the alarm come from? Hearing this, the subordinate next to him immediately replied, Captain, it's from the direction of Mass Grave Mountain. Hearing this, the man's face showed even deeper confusion. This is impossible. Wasn't he supposed to fully manifest in a few days? The square-faced man immediately gave a quick order. Immediately repair it. Also, Have the patrolling personnel outside await my command. The scene returned to the mass grave. The 1,000-year-old bogwood coffin, at the moment I awoke, was directly by the terrifying energy. Shattered into fragments at the same time, 9 bolts of heavenly lightning gathered in the sky. Then, towards my corpse pit, struck straight down. At this moment, Lu Ruyan was completely dumbfounded. What on earth was this thing she was about to consummate her marriage with? And just at this moment, I directly leaped out of the pit, my entire body shrouded in black mist. Then I quickly rushed up to meet the heavenly lightning. After the two made contact, a flash of white radiance instantly swept across. The intense light that erupted made the female ghost subconsciously close her eyes. It was the first time she hoped I could be struck by heavenly lightning and killed. After all, this thing was truly too terrifying. But who knew? After the shocking thunder, a purple-robed figure stood unharmed in place. At this moment, I finally became a true purple-robe zombie. Seeing this scene, my heart was filled with joy. Then I suddenly turned my head to look at the wedding dress female ghost. At this moment, she finally could no longer hold on, being terrified by the immense pressure and falling to the ground. Senior sister, weren't you going to consummate our marriage with me? Why aren't you coming now? As I spoke, my figure instantly appeared before her. Lu Ruyan, realizing what was happening, subconsciously wanted to run. But before she could make a move, she found that her body was already unable to move. Immediately after, her throat was instantly pierced by a pair of long, slender fingers. Lu Ruyan immediately let out a shrill scream. If it were an ordinary person, they would have long since perished. But fortunately, she was a female ghost filled with monstrous resentment. She wouldn't die anytime soon. Senior sister, why are you running? Are you afraid of me? Hearing this, Lu Ruyan immediately wet herself. She quickly knelt down and pleaded for mercy in terror. Little brother, spare my life. I wanted to kill you, but I was being manipulated by someone. As soon as these words came out, my originally calm eyes once again turned blood red. Who exactly was it? Hearing this, Lu Ruyan, as if clutching at a life-saving straw, continued, If you let me go, I'll tell you. Seeing this, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. You? You think you're worthy of negotiating terms with me? Immediately, before she could speak again, I directly unleashed an even more terrifying aura. Immediately after, her body instantly turned into a wisp of green smoke, eventually being sucked into the ancient copper coin mask. At the same time, the system's voice suddenly rang out, killed a wedding dress ghost, gained 1 dampness point, plus 300. Seeing this, I was very puzzled. Can this system still upgrade and grow stronger by relying on visual chi points? So I quickly opened the system panel. After some investigation, I learned that I was actually the only purple-robed zombie king in this world. My own level had also reached the 3rd-tier green zombie stage. It turned out that the zombie levels in this world are generally divided into purple zombie, white zombie, green zombie, hairy zombie, flying zombie, wandering corpse, and unchanged corpse. Moreover, an ordinary zombie wanting to become a green zombie would take at least 400 or 500 years. I didn't expect that I had just undergone corpse transformation and already stepped into the green zombie realm. At this moment, the system once again popped up an introduction. The Purple Zombie King is the supreme being of all things, transcending the 3 realms, not within the 5 elements, cannot be investigated, cannot be spied upon. Host can freely control his body's transformation, fears no sunlight, fears no myriad spells. If you do not encounter fatal damage, then you will be ageless, immortal, and indestructible. Seeing these incredibly powerful attributes, I couldn't help but be stunned. These attributes were simply too overpowered. As for the other items, after looking them over, they were also incredibly heaven-defying. The purple robe is transformed from a Taoist treasure. When worn, it can conceal heavenly secrets. Lion King Martial Emperor Copper Coin Mask. When worn, can conceal one's form. Each copper coin can suppress 10,000 ghosts. Currently sealed, Ghost. Wedding Dress Girl. Seeing this, I immediately lowered my head and took a look. I saw that within the copper coin mask, a ghostly figure was wandering. It was precisely the wedding dress female ghost from before. Only, her eyes had lost their luster. She had completely become a subordinate of the martial emperor copper coin mask. So, sealing malevolent ghosts within the copper coin mask could serve as nourishment to enhance one's own strength. If enough ghostly beings were collected, in a single thought, one could even summon 100 ghosts to raid at night. That scene was awe-inspiring just to imagine. It seems I really bet correctly this time. Although I gave up my identity as a living person, I gained the immortal and indestructible purple-robed zombie king. Although zombies seem very terrifying, in this world, there is no true compassion. Only human hearts distinguish between good and evil. However, before the wedding dress female ghost died, she said she was being controlled by someone. If everything was true, then no matter who it was, their entire family wouldn't escape. So, I once again took out that blood-stained love letter and forcefully infused a surge of energy into it. In an instant, the love letter released a sinister and evil aura. At the same time, in my eyes, a figure appeared. He looked like a rather refined man, but with just one glance, I immediately felt very surprised. Because he was precisely the Jiangbei University Archaeology Department's teacher, Zhou Zheng, and he was also the wedding dress female ghost's boyfriend when she was alive. Earlier, when I was entangled by the wedding dress female ghost, I even sought his help. However, I was refused for some reason. I didn't expect that he was manipulating everything from behind the scenes. But the question was, what benefit would killing me bring to him? What benefit exactly would there be? Or rather, was he secretly researching something? Just then, the system popped up a mission, an eye for an eye. Complete the mission to receive abundant rewards. Seeing this, my figure instantly transformed into a streak of red light and rapidly flew towards another direction. However, what I couldn't perceive was that deep within this mass grave, underground, a faint gaze was quietly opening, and it glanced towards my location, but then it slowly closed again. Not long after my figure left, several figures arrived at this entrance. Captain, the detection results are out. This time, the cause of the abnormal fluctuation is not the mass burial mountain ahead, but this small mass grave next to it. Hearing this, the square-faced man said with a solemn expression, "This is the worst part." Two great ominous entities manifested in one place at the same time. Everyone, immediately activate level 1 combat readiness. Follow me in. Not long after, I arrived at the entrance of a residential complex. Through the visual manifestation of the blood-stained love letter. At this moment, Zhou Zhang was sitting cross-legged inside a luxurious residence. Before him, a ritual altar was placed. On it, surprisingly, was a woman's bone. And on top of the bone, there was also a photograph. The person in the photograph was none other than myself. Zhou Zhang held a peach with sword and muttered, "Could it be?" a pure yang body, and even an innate pure yang body. If I carve a life formation with your bones, I will be able to investigate that ancient tomb. He looked at my photograph, his eyes revealing an unimaginable madness. However, just at this moment, a loud bang suddenly erupted from the ritual altar. Immediately after, the white bone began to shatter inch by inch. The next second, it exploded with a bang. Seeing this, Zhou Zheng was instantly furious. I'd like to see who it is. Who dares to ruin this young master's good deed? Immediately, he scooped up the bone powder and towards his own eyes. He smeared it. Yin and yang. Nothing can escape me. I borrow ghost eyes to observe the human world. Ghost eyes to see. Who knew that when a wisp of black mist appeared, my figure actually appeared on the photograph. On its own. Wearing the mask. I first grinned at him. Teacher Zhou. Don't be in a hurry. I'll be coming for you very soon. Hearing this, Zhou Zheng was instantly greatly alarmed and lost color. What on earth did that damned brat go through? He was a perfectly fine living person yesterday. How could he turn into this ghostly thing today? Just that terrifying aura alone. That terrifying aura was definitely something he couldn't resist. So, in an instant, he made a decision to turn tail and run. But just as he walked out of the room, the surroundings were enveloped by a cloud of white mist. Zhou Zheng, who could manipulate malevolent ghosts, immediately realized something was wrong. He used the dim light of the street lamp to look downstairs. Sure enough, he once again saw that purple-robed figure. So, without a second thought, he hurriedly closed the main door. Although his legs couldn't help but tremble, he still forced himself to comfort himself. Isn't it just a recently deceased corpse? No matter what strange transformation occurred, could a ghost that just appeared yesterday still be something I can't handle? But as the thought in his mind settled, my figure instantly appeared inside the house. At this moment, my eyes stared at him indifferently. Teacher Zhou. Long time no see. This seemingly simple sentence still made Zhou Zheng shiver uncontrollably. Student Zhang. I said all this was a misunderstanding. Do you believe me? I actually didn't mean to harm you. Hearing his words, I immediately revealed a ferocious smile. That's truly wonderful. My killing you tonight is actually also a misunderstanding. Don't worry. When tomorrow's news is reported, you will surely die peacefully. Hearing this, Zhou Zheng's smile instantly vanished. He also knew that today he absolutely couldn't afford to die. Since you are so ungrateful, then this one shall act on behalf of the heavens and put an end to you. Having said that, he gritted his teeth and stood before the altar, infusing a drop of fresh blood into the peachwood sword. Evil creature, take this sword. Immediately after, he suddenly slapped forward, sending a beam of blood-red light shooting directly towards me. This peachwood sword was a magical artifact he refined, specifically designed to counter Yin with Yin. Even century-old fierce ghosts could be slain by it. However, my physical body, having endured the 9 lightning heavenly tribulation, was already incredibly powerful, beyond imagination. Just as the peachwood sword arrived, I directly grabbed it in my hand. Then, my palm suddenly exerted force, forcefully breaking the peachwood sword into 2 halves. This made Zhou Zheng, who was in the distance, stare dumbfounded. But he very quickly reacted and again took out a radiating terrifying black chi talisman. And on that talisman, an actual bloody eyeball was sealed. Jiang Chu. You forced my hand. This talisman was Zhou Zheng's life-saving trump card. Legend has it that it was transformed by an unparalleled mighty being to slay evil creatures. Once released, could unleash incomparable power. Zhou Zheng clasped his hands together, mobilizing the surrounding energy. A majestic dark glow could be seen rapidly gathering and taking shape. Then, the ball of light shot directly towards me. After unleashing this attack, Zhou Zheng immediately collapsed. Clearly the talisman had already drained him of his vital essence. However, he dared not relax in the slightest. His gaze remained fixed on the shockwave of the explosion. To his surprise, when the smoke and dust dispersed, I appeared completely unharmed. The power isn't bad. If it were dozens of times stronger, it might just be enough to break my defenses. After speaking, I didn't give him a chance to react, directly stepping forward and tearing the talisman to shreds. Then, I suppressed the ghost eye into the copper coin mask. Host slays ghost eye. +1. Dampness points +500. But just then, I suddenly sniffed again, and a zombie's inherent bloodthirsty desire appeared in my heart. Drain him dry, although this desire wasn't particularly strong. But now, seeing fresh blood, I was like a thirsty person suddenly seeing a glass of iced cola. At this moment, Zhou Zheng seemed to have noticed something as well. His entire body was constantly retreating. But all of this was futile. Then, a shrill scream echoed throughout the entire room. 2.5 seconds passed like this. Only then did I contentedly wipe the corners of my mouth and looked down at the dried corpse on the ground. At this moment, his flesh, blood, and soul had all been devoured by me. At the same time, the system's voice sounded. Host devours cultivator. Gains 1 month of dampness chi. Dampness points +500. Then the system popped up some miscellaneous information. The general meaning was that if I wanted to quickly improve my strength, I should focus on those great fiends or ominous beings. However, it was a bargain for that old geezer Zhou Zheng. I didn't expect my first bite to be dedicated to him. Originally, it should have been offered to some zombie maiden or something. Afterwards, I found a zombie nail on his body. After absorbing it, I gained another 30 years of dampness chi. This also made my purification level reach 71%. Soon after, I would be able to break through to the next level. Now that my great revenge was exacted, I also, amidst the mist, quickly concealed my form. Not long after, inside a room in Panzihua residential area. At this moment, my zombie fangs were constantly retracting, and my originally ferocious red eyes had also returned to normal. My purple Taoist robe also, along with the dampness chi, disappeared. As for the copper coin mask on my face, it transformed into a bracelet and was worn on my wrist. The current me was not much different from when I was alive, except my complexion looked a bit sickly. However, a zombie's identity is different from ordinary people, so I naturally knew that I should try my best not to expose it. In order to quickly improve my strength, I opened the system store for the first time. A total of 2,117 points had accumulated in my account. However, the system items not only looked varied and diverse, but were also sold at extremely high prices. Dampness shampoo, 500 points. Dark cola, 500 points. Corpse control, technique, 500 points. However, this divine ability caught my attention, because once a zombie cultivates this method, they can use dampness chi to control any living creature. As the saying goes, when a zombie knows magic, even immortals can't stop it. Moreover, who could refuse to be a zombie king with divine abilities? After completely sorting out today's gains, completed, only then did I couldn't help but stretch, then lay on the bed and fell into a deep sleep. After all, tomorrow I still needed to attend class. The next morning, Xianxia University indeed exploded with commotion. Zhou Zheng's death news quickly spread throughout the campus. His residence was now surrounded by police. One of the students, with a somewhat frightened expression, said, "I heard teacher Zhou died quite miserably. He had 2 large holes in his neck, looking like the work of a zombie. But what's been going on this past year? There are always these supernatural rumors. You wouldn't believe it. Just a few days ago, someone was live streaming and encountered a female ghost trying to pick them up." Listening to the students' conversation not far away, I didn't feel any surprise. At this moment, I was still calculating in my mind how to improve my strength. However, due to last night's experience, I could roughly deduce that the more dangerous a place was, the more likely it was to trigger system missions. For this reason, when night fell, I quickly appeared on a street where ominous and dark incidents frequently occurred. Although Linchuan Alley used to be quite crowded at night, tonight it appeared extremely deserted. Moreover, a dense aura of malevolence permeated the surroundings. Sure enough, it was just as I had guessed. This was a gathering place for dangerous haunted houses. Just then, the sound of high heels echoed in the alley. Then, a woman with a hot figure walked over. Her face was flushed, and at first glance, she looked like she had too much to drink. But she only stumbled 2 steps before she couldn't help but lean against the wall and dry heave. On such a cold day, if only there was a man. Hearing her words, I pretended to casually walk up to her. But when the woman looked up at me, she seemed a bit flustered. "No need to panic. I see you've had too much to drink and want to help you." When the woman clearly saw my handsome appearance, her originally wary eyes not only instantly relaxed, but her eyes even lit up with some light. "Oh, it's a handsome young man. Thank you." However, just as I helped her up, the woman couldn't help but ask, "Handsome, why is your body so flat?" Hearing this, I smiled faintly and replied, "Perhaps the weather is too cold, and I'm naturally cold-bodied." "Oh, so that's it. Then it's perfect. I'll help warm you up." With that, she took advantage of my inattention, and a sudden burst erupted from her body. An eerie aura, however, before he could continue acting. The 2 fangs at the corners of my mouth. My zombie fangs suddenly appeared, and my eyes quickly turned vivid red. This instantly astonished the woman. "It's actually a zombie." However, before he could make a move, I bit straight into his neck. Then the woman's body was like a balloon, rapidly shriveling. Not long after, she completely turned into a dried corpse, falling to the ground. "Congratulations, host, for slaying an evil creature. You have obtained 150 dampness points." Hearing this, I glanced at the shriveled female corpse on the ground. It turned out she was a special existence, neither human nor ghost. In other words, the Changgue, rampant ghost, that people are most familiar with. Legend has it that a tiger demon, having gained sentience, would devour passers-by and could refine people's souls and spirits into Changgue for its own use, using this to bewilder passers-by, dilute their vital essence, and so on. However, this Changgue before me was clearly once human. In order to see clearly the thing causing trouble behind it, I cast the corpse control art on the corpse for the first time. As my palm suddenly lifted, in the void, strands of red silk threads instantly appeared. Immediately after, the threads quickly drilled into the corpse's body. The next second, the woman, who was originally lifeless, opened her eyes again. However, she was now merely a walking corpse. Then a cold voice suddenly rang out. "Greetings, Master." Experiencing the corpse control art for the first time, I was very satisfied. If it were a living body, that would simply be a divine art for acquiring servants. Hearing this, I directly asked her, "Tell me, who created you?" The woman's cold voice uttered 3 words from her mouth. "It's Grandma. Take me to her immediately." Not long after, the woman's body stopped in front of a small 2-story courtyard house, because zombies are exceptionally sensitive to the smell of blood. Just as I stepped into the courtyard, I knew this was the source of the dry corpse case. And the number of Changgue inside was definitely more than 1. Just then, one of the rooms was suddenly pushed open. Out of it walked a woman with an equally sizzling figure. I saw her holding a cigarette, taking a puff, and asked, "Xiao Qing is back?" After speaking, she then turned her gaze to me. "What a handsome young man. Xiao Qing, your luck is good tonight, isn't it? How about you let me have him tonight? I'll give you half a month's extra pay. What do you think?" Continuation of 60, however, just as her words fell, Xiao Qing's entire body instantly exploded. That scene instantly made the sizzling woman freeze. "So it was you causing trouble all along." Hearing this, I nodded in response. "You Changgue preying on living people, and being killed by me in return, is your own doing." Seeing that the newcomer was hostile, the sizzling woman no longer concealed herself. The next second, black smoke began to emanate from all over her skin. Her skin was also covered with dense patterns. Finally, she transformed into a hideous-faced Changgue. However, she also sensed that I was not human. She then asked suspiciously, "Since you are a monster of the same kind as me, why do you want to kill my kind?" Hearing this, I immediately showed disdain. "Don't flatter yourself. You're of the same kind as me? You're not worthy." As soon as these words were spoken, the female Changgue's expression instantly turned grim. "You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." After speaking, she let out a roar, summoning the female Changgue hiding in the other rooms. Continuation of 86. Seeing that she had 6 or 7 of her kind backing her up, the female Changgue's face also showed a few traces of arrogance and fury. "Either leave now, or die." The next second, a smile appeared on my face. "Since you've all come, that saves me the trouble of looking for you one by one." Saying this, I transformed my body directly into a ghostly light and charged straight towards the female Changgue. Their calm expressions suddenly underwent a drastic change. But before the female Changgue could react, almost in an instant, all the female Changgue were torn to shreds by me. "Host, you have slain an evil creature. Gaining 900 dampness points." The system notification rang in my ears. Hearing it, I nodded with considerable satisfaction. Immediately after, I swept my gaze over the remains on the ground. It turned out that the reason this old-style courtyard house could be rented out was because most of them were renovated by the house owner himself. And being able to hide so many Changgue here, continuation of 110, it seems the house owner is definitely involved. Perhaps even all of this was his doing. Not long after, I arrived at the funeral parlor not far away. The funeral shop's area wasn't large. Inside were displayed various paper effigies of people and horses. The boss here was a 70-year-old young lady. She was also the owner of that old house. However, no matter how hard she thought, she couldn't understand how I could still come out alive from the alley inside. Good craftsmanship, from all walks of life, diverse and varied. It seems you were a good paper craftsman in life. As soon as these words were spoken, old Yu's originally furrowed brows instantly disappeared, replaced by a deep look of apprehension. Then he stared intently at me and asked, "Which path do you belong to?" Hearing this, I rubbed my nose and pondered for a moment. I am a zombie that has transcended the 3 realms and 6 paths. As I spoke, I also switched to my zombie king form. Continuation of 132, however. When old you saw my purple-robed form, his originally calm expression was instantly replaced by terror. At the same time, he turned and ran without hesitation. Along the way, he even complained that his escape speed wasn't fast enough. The next second, he actually transformed into a weasel spirit. However, this scene almost made me dumbfounded. It's just hanging clothes. Is it really necessary? But just as I was about to move, the paper effigies of people and horses originally displayed in the funeral parlor all came alive, their faces contorted, and they successively jumped to the doorway, blocking my path. Seeing this, I frowned slightly. I directly released a terrifying corpse aura, instantly tearing all the paper figures to shreds. Who knew that along with terrified howls, several weasel spirits actually darted out from within the paper effigies. However, these minions were clearly not enough to cut down. The next second, they all became my evolution points. Host, you have slain a weasel spirit, gaining 600 dampness points. Hearing this, I paid no attention, and continued to chase after the old weasel spirit, where it had fled. Continuation of 156, however, his struggles were all in vain. Before he had even run far, he was slammed to the ground by a wave of white dampness chi. At this moment, the weasel spirit lay on the ground, spitting fresh blood. At the same time, he looked at me with a face full of terror and roared, "You're not from the Taoist sect, nor are you human. I have no grudge against you, sir. Why do you want to target me today? Do you really think my Huang Daxian family is easy to bully?" Hearing this, I slowly emerged from the mist. It is rumored that fox, weasel, white, willow, and gray spirits are most prone to becoming demons. But to me, they are just a bunch of beasts. With your beginner-level cultivation, you dare to threaten. As soon as these words were spoken, the weasel spirit instantly flew into a rage. Seeing that I wouldn't let him go, he completely went all out. I saw demonic energy continuously erupting from his body. The next second, he pounced towards me. However, the smile on my face grew wider. Although I am not a purple-robed heavenly master, I am a purple-robed zombie king. Hearing this, the old weasel spirit immediately slammed on the brakes in terror. How are these two things stitched together? This guy is simply a monster. But at the critical moment of life and death, he clearly didn't want to sit and wait for death. Instead, he released a yellow light around his body. The next second, the light condensed into a beam of light, hoping to use it to block my casual blow. However, my zombie king's physical body was terrifyingly powerful. With one punch, I even smashed the weasel spirit into smithereens. Congratulations, host, for slaying a weasel spirit, gaining 600 dampness points. However, listening to the system's reward, I still wore a solemn expression. Even a small weasel spirit can harm so many people. It seems the current human world is really not easy to get by in. Just then, the system, a series of cold mechanical sounds continued, congratulating the host on completing the system mission. Mission reward, 30 years of dampness and 1,000 dampness points. Almost the instant it slid down, my body erupted with a terrifying surge of dampness, and then my limbs and bones continuously grew tougher and more resilient. Not long after, I vaguely touched the limits of Green River, just one step away from another transformation. In just one moment, I thought of my next move, going home. Immediately, the Lion King's figure flashed, instantly turning into mist and vanishing. Upon returning home, I eagerly opened the system panel. My current level was 3rd tier Green River, and my evolution progress had reached 97%. Only that final 3% was needed to complete the purification. Because I had just gone on a killing spree, my account now had accumulated 3,600 points of dampness. So I exchanged them for 4 dampness pills. Swallowing them, it wasn't long before my body finally began to transform. Subsequently, my body became covered in ghastly white long fur. However, these were no ordinary hairs. They were condensed from the dampness energy within my body. Accompanied by a sound like stir-fried soybeans, my flesh and bones were regenerating. Finally, my original body completely vanished, replaced by a mass of white fur. Finally, after an unknown period, a roar, suppressed to the extreme, erupted from my throat. Then my figure dutifully stood up from the bed. At the same time, the snow-white long fur on my body instantly disappeared. Congratulations, host. Purification complete. Current level, 4th tier fur pulp. Purification progress, 1%. I carefully sensed the changes brought by the increase in strength. I found that all my body's attributes were incredibly powerful, 10 times stronger than before. However, just then, the system once again sent a notification sound. Host, you have unlocked the innate talent of the purple-robed General King. General King's Ascension. General King's Ascension is the innate divine ability of the purple-robed General King. After activating this talent, a divine aura will cover the body, bringing a 200% increase in strength. Duration, 5 minutes. Hearing this, I couldn't help but be overjoyed. Even if it only lasted 5 minutes, that would be enough to slay copper-level opponents dozens of times over. This feeling was truly wonderful. However, I still suppressed the urge to unleash the skill. After all, if such terrifying dampness energy were allowed to spread, I'm afraid the entire residential area's living residents would suffer. After slightly adapting to the power around me, the next second I noticed the remnants of my transformation on the ground. I saw a section of spine still within the skin. At first, I was very confused. However, after the system's explanation, I understood that this thing could be refined into my own natal artifact. My first thought was to refine it into a human yellow sail, but the system prompted that the material was incompatible and could not be refined. Left with no choice, I had to turn it into a bone hammer with a true name. General King's Quaking Jade Hammer. A natal artifact usable only by the host. Its power can be enhanced by refining it with the transformed General King's bones. The stronger the host, the stronger the natal dampness. Moreover, this bone hammer can also switch forms. As my thoughts moved, the original bone hammer directly transformed into a longer bone whip. As expected of something self-produced and self-marketed, this power was fierce. It's just that ever since I became a zombie, the items around me have become increasingly eerie and otherworldly. After all this was done, I exchanged for 5 sound-seeking compasses from the shop. Because the compass's function was very simple and direct, when used, it could automatically track the exact location of evil spirits. In order to be able to cultivate even while sleeping, I eventually spent 517 points to buy myself a zombie bed. Sure enough, as soon as I lay down, a chilling coldness permeated my body. However, by the next morning, I was actually woken up by a call from my good buddy. In the call, he said 2 relatives had died, specifically his uncle and aunt. Moreover, their bodies looked as if they had been drained of oxygen. After some inquiries, I learned that the reason his family was nouveau riche was because his father, in his early years, had once gone to a temple to worship the Wutong god. The Wutong god, in reality, consisted of 5 ghosts, all transformed from mountain spirits and monsters. Although such temples were rare, Many living people worshipped them as temples of the god of wealth, especially those involved in illicit businesses. But how could there be such good things in the world? As long as you borrowed this so-called wealth, you would have to bring a large amount of offerings every year thereafter, or even offer the lives of some relatives. This was what led to the tragedy that occurred earlier. Li Wei had previously heard that I had suddenly acquired some Taoist magic. Feeling utterly helpless, he came to me. Not long after, I arrived at the Lin family home and released a chilling aura towards the two corpses. Then, I saw a wisp of black smoke slowly rise from within the corpses. The next second, the black smoke transformed into a ghostly face. I saw it constantly struggling and ferociously roaring at me, saying, "Who dares to profane the Wuchang god?" Hearing this, I immediately scoffed. Mere mountain spirits and demons dare to falsely call themselves gods? Then, I directly gave the startling entity a slap that shattered it into pieces. Lin Wei's father, Lin Dali, saw that I was young yet possessed such abilities, and so he confidently revealed everything. 20 years ago, after I made my wish at that temple, that very night, I had a dream. In the dream, I saw the Wuchang god. His condition was not to ask for money or offerings, but to demand the life of my future son. Although I wasn't married at the time, I couldn't possibly offer the life of my descendant in return. But the Wuchang god said, "Since you have already come to the temple, there is no possibility of regretting it." He said that on the day my son turns 18, he would personally come to claim him. After that, I broke out in a cold sweat. However, I didn't pay too much attention to it later, until my two relatives passed away, and then I was filled with regret. After speaking, Lin Dali's eyes lit up again and he said, "Little mouse Taoist priest, do you have a way to help our Lin family get through this calamity?" Hearing his words, I nodded and said, "It's very simple. Tonight, I'll go kill that Wuchang ghost. Then won't everything be resolved?" But Lin Dali had invited countless experts over the years, and no one had ever, like me, immediately suggested killing the entity. Are young people nowadays all so bold? However, he had just witnessed my divine abilities. Compared to the Taoist priests before, the methods I displayed seemed even more profound and unfathomable. At this moment, a few more points of confidence couldn't help but rise in his heart. Then he respectfully asked again, "What preparations are needed?" "You just need to take me to the place." Not long after, the group arrived at a secluded temple. I had Lin Dali and the others stay put, and then I, along with Lin Wei, walked towards the temple. Before, the incense offerings here were very abundant, but now it had become deserted, looking very dilapidated and eerie. "Host, a system mission has been triggered. Complete the mission to receive abundant rewards." Just then, a ray of light pierced through the darkness, instantly illuminating the path up the mountain. In such a terrifying atmosphere, most people would be trembling with fear, but Lin Wei appeared quite excited. "Old Jiang, do you think we'll encounter two female ghosts later?" "So, one for you, one for me. How about that?" But before I could even retort playfully, a voice suddenly echoed from the eerie mountain path. "My lord, come quickly." The women's playful laughter was very enticing. Hearing this, we turned our heads to look in the direction of the sound. We saw that what was originally a calm stream had, at some unknown point, become enveloped in a mist that had risen. Looking through the hazy mist, we could vaguely make out several women frolicking in the water. Lin Wei, seeing this, immediately nudged me and asked, "Old Jiang, see what I mean? These aren't just female ghosts, are they? Hearing him, I also found it amusing. Indeed, they are ghosts, and they're coming for us. Lin Wei patted his chest excitedly. Are they really that arrogant? Old Jiang? Don't stop me. I must teach them a lesson today. With that, Lin Wei excitedly ran towards the small stream. We saw him unbuckling his belt as he ran. At this moment, the women frolicking in the river were somewhat stunned by the sight. What's going on? This old lady hasn't even made a move to lure anyone today. And he's just run over on his own. Afterwards, the allure on the faces of those female ghosts deepened. At the same time, their eyes glowed faintly as they looked at Lin Wei and smiled. Sir, are you coming down to bathe with us? Hearing this, Lin Wei waved his hand and said, Miss Wei, this water is too cold. On such a cold day, one shouldn't go into the water. How about this? I'll add some heat to your water. What do you say? With that said, a slightly yellow stream of water shot up into the sky, drawing a beautiful arc, and accurately landed on the head of one of the female ghosts. The splashing water also took care of the other female ghosts. This display made my scalp tingle. Wei is truly a Wei. Indeed, this is why robots will never be able to replace humans. Afterwards, the female ghosts in the stream, from their initial stunned state, became utterly enraged. Their originally delicate-looking faces began to contort at that very moment. Stinking man! We'll make you die.